Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. This week I have an email from a guy whose girlfriend broke up with him, and unfortunately he didn't do the right things after the breakup, and now she's told him that he needs to let her go and that he's not the man for her. So let me go through the email and I'll explain what he could have done different. I lived with my ex for 6 months. Then I tanked. In the last month, I dislocated my foot. My dad died. I'm sorry to hear that. I was unemployed and I was not taking my thyroid medicine. So that's usually when things really go bad, when you get a bunch of things all at once. Because if it had just been the dislocating of the foot, it would have been okay. If it had just been the dad dying, of course it would have been very traumatic, but it wouldn't have been as bad with all these other things. If it was just the unemployment. But you put everything together and it's really difficult to handle, especially unemployment for men, because that's their identity. Men want to be providers, and if they're not employed, then they feel they can't provide. So that really messes with a man's head. And so you really need to be careful if you're a man and you find yourself in this position where you don't have a job, you're unemployed. Do not take it out on your partner, because you'll see what happens. For 5 weeks, I became worse and worse, stagnant, depressed, irritable, and way too needy, never leaving the house, emotionally abusing her when she get home from work, with my anxiety, depression, and neediness. I was so depressed and I could not see it. But there's no excuse for this. You're right. I let myself get out of whack. I'm a yoga instructor and there's no excuse. I stopped working and just let myself go. I mean, it's understandable, but also, being a yoga instructor, you're more in tune with your body than most people, with your body and your emotions. So it's too bad you couldn't see that you're depressed, but I don't know that that would have helped, even knowing that you were depressed. But let's see what happens. After the breakup for a month, I begged, pleaded, overloading her with emails, and on weekends, when she would agree to meet with me once a week, I gave her flowers, gifts, jewelry, painted her paintings. And that's where you went wrong. The relationship was already on life support, and by overloading her with the emails and the gifts, you were just killing it even more. It's already almost dead, and now you're killing it. And I'll explain why in a minute. The last time we spoke on my birthday, she said, "You have to let me go." This was after overloading her with 4 emails the day before. I hired a life coach. I joined improv classes. I'm now teaching yoga full time. I have an income, new friends, and more. I hope that I can be stable long term so that I can be her partner for life. Someday I'd like to express this apology to her in a letter. Should I break no contact in order to share the apology? So far it's been a month of no contact. I was originally aiming for a minimum of 2, but don't want to push her away. Should I apologize to contact? You mean you haven't apologized already? I find that hard to believe. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. In the times when you were giving all the gifts, I'm sure you apologized. So sending yet another apology is not going to do the trick, but let me show you where you went wrong. So women need to feel safe, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. They need to know that, the person they're with is not going to beat them up. They need to know that the person is not going to be verbally abusive, emotionally abusive. And so she didn't feel safe because you were out of control. You were not able to control yourself. You were not able to control how you expressed your depression and your anxiety, and you took it out on her. So she broke up with you, and then you tried to get her back, but you didn't address the problem. The problem was that you were out of control. And so what you needed to do was to show her what? A man in control. But you didn't do that. You showed her a man who overloaded her with emails. You showed her a man who thought that he could buy her back, who didn't understand that wasn't the problem. The problem was not that you weren't giving her flowers and gifts and jewelry and painting her paintings. The problem was that you were not in control of yourself. And so that's why the flowers and the gifts and the jewelry and the paintings didn't work, because they didn't address the problems. And when you said you overloaded her with 4 emails the day before, again, a man out of control, a man who can't control himself. And that's unsafe. Men don't want to be around other men who can't control themselves, and women don't want to be with a man who can't control himself, because the thought is, what's going to happen if we're married and we have children and something like this happens again, like a bunch of bad things happen again? Because that's just life. Things happen. And all of a sudden, one bad thing after another happens in 4 months, and now she's married with you with children, and she can't count on you to control yourself. And so she may not even be thinking this consciously, but subconsciously, she knows she wants to feel safe, and she wants to build a nest, so to speak, with a partner who she can trust, who she can feel safe with. And if she can't feel safe with you, she can't trust you to control yourself and control your expression of your feelings, then she's not going to want to be with you. So what you should have done when she broke up with you was just to go away, leave her alone for at least a good month, get yourself together. Because the thing is, she was willing to see you. That's a lot better than most people. Most people, someone breaks up with them and their partner does not want to see them. She was willing to see you. That's why I said for a month. Otherwise, I would have said, leave her alone until she contacts you. If you had just gone away, regrouped, started to get yourself together, then you wouldn't have been as needy. You wouldn't have, hopefully, been overloading her with 4 emails, and you could have been back together. And so that's why this is so sad, because this didn't have to happen. And all you had to do was, go online, search what to do after a breakup, and they would have told you, just stay away. And if you wanted to speak to someone, you could have gotten a dating coach. It doesn't have to be me. Just, you could have spoken to it. I mean, you have a life coach, but a life coach is not a dating coach. And a dating coach needs to specialize in getting an ex back. So you kind of wasted your money because you spent it on flowers, gifts, and jewelry, when if you had just spoken with a dating coach, any good dating coach would have said to you, just leave her alone. Leave her alone, at least for now. And I'm quite sure that you could have been back together. So at this point, now you have to do what you should have done originally. Leave her alone. I'm sure you apologized. If for some reason you haven't apologized, which I find strange, then there is a certain letter that you can send that's not an apology letter. It's more of a closure letter that's meant to touch her heart. So if you want to do that, you can always contact me and we can work on that. But otherwise, anyone else listening, please, if you are broken up with, do not act on instinct. Instinct, as I mentioned in my other podcast about why you go crazy in love, is just about survival. It's not going to work in your best interest. You need to regroup and know what to do and have a plan. And don't just go on instinct and start calling and texting and emailing and buying flowers and buying gifts. That's not going to work, and you're just going to make things worse. Like I said, the relationship was on life support, and you were just killing it every time you did something. And I don't know. I don't know if we can get this back now. So please, everybody listening, do not do this. Make intelligent choices. Make wise choices. I don't want to have to get another letter like this. Okay, so if you would like to contact me, you can reach me at theartoflove.net. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please rate and review the podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. And finally, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.